Hello everyone, welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for today, Friday, December 15th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. We'll go over to RotoWire and talk about the injuries in play for today's 8-game main slate overall. And then we'll get moved over to both DraftKings and FanDuel and talk about my core picks for today. So it's going to be one player at each position. So point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. So it was a pretty interesting slate overall yesterday. Utah was kind of that team was drawing a lot of ownership with all the guys they had missing. They actually ended up winning that game too as well, which was kind of a surprise. But on the DraftKings side at point guard, we had Colin Sexton, $5,700. Looking for 29 points. I'm getting 37.5. So he was a good hit on yesterday's slate. Then the other guard I said is either going to be Chris Dunn or Talen Horton-Tucker, just depending on who started, or if neither one started, it would be Talen Horton-Tucker. So Talen Horton-Tucker did get the start. He was $5,000, looking for at least 25 out of him, got to 38. So he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate overall. At small forward, we went Duncan Robinson, $6,400, looking for 32 points out. Only got to 18.5 yesterday. Kind of an unfortunate day for him overall there. He was a mess. Only played 27 minutes in this game. It was mainly scoring dependent, although he did shoot 4 for 9 from the field. So it wasn't just like a terrible shooting game at that. And then we moved down to power forward with Kawhi Leonard. I did like him quite a bit. I liked him, even better once Paul George was ruled out. Unfortunately, ended up being James Harden having the bigger game, but Kawhi Leonard at $8,700 got to 44, so still 5x there. He was a hit and not anybody that hurt our lineups at the same time. And then last but not least, at that center position, initially had Nikolai Vucevic at $7,900. Looking for about 40 points out, got to 56, so he was a really good hit there. Said you could also go with Kelly Olynyk too if you wanted to, $5,300. We were looking for at least 27 points out, got to 25 yesterday, so he's a mess. Only played 24 minutes and was 1 for 6 shooting from the field. So DraftKings a little bit of hit or miss there. Obviously, if you play Kelly Olynyk and Duncan Robinson, they didn't really pan out. But if you play the 5 of Colin Sexton, Talen Horton-Tucker, Duncan Robinson, Kawhi Leonard, and Nikolai Vucevic, and had some other decent plays alongside that, probably cashed on yesterday's slate overall. And then on the FanDuel side, we had Kobe White, $7,700. Looking for about 39 out of him, got to 53.9. So he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. Said, if you kind of want to pay down at that point guard spot, you could look at Chris Dunn at $4,400. We were looking for at least 22 out of him, got to 15.9, so he was a mess. Played 26 minutes in that game, 6 points, 5 assists, but not too much else overall. And then at shooting guard, we had Colin Sexton, once again, $5,400. Looking for at least 27 out of him, got 36.4, so he was a really good hit on yesterday's slate. At small forward, we went with Duncan Robinson, $5,700. Looking for 29 out of him, got to 15.9. He was a miss once again, only played 27 minutes in that game and was mainly scoring dependent. And then at power forward, we went with Kelly Olynyk here, $5,300, looking for 27 points out. We got to 24.5, so he's a miss. Not anybody that completely killed your lineups just because of the ownership he was drawing and everything else like that. But at the same time, could have had a little bit better performance, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, but only 2 points on 1 for 6 shooting and 24 minutes for him yesterday. And then at center, I said you could pick your favorite Nikolai. So Nikolai Jokic, $12,400, got to 61 points, so to give him a push, we were looking for around 62 or higher out of him. Not the greatest day for him overall, but not a bad day by any means. And then Nikolai Vucevic at $8,200, looking for at least 41 out of him, got to 57.9, so he was a good hit on the FanDuel side. So a little bit more hit or miss on FanDuel, but if you went with the Kobe White and the Nikolai Vucevic line, had a little bit better chance to cash in there if you had some Talen Horton-Tucker in there as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to the injuries and play for tonight's slate. So once again, it is an 8-game main slate. Looks like we've got 3 games tipping off right at 7 o'clock Eastern time today. So that'll be kind of interesting. So we should have a good amount of news headed into lock at the very least. For the Detroit Pistons, they're without Marvin Bagley, Jalen Durant, and Monty Morris all once again. So pretty much what we saw out of them the last time. And then for the Philadelphia 76ers, they appear to be all the way healthy at this point in time. The Indiana Pacers are without Andrew Nembhard and Jalen Smith once again, so no changes there. And then on the Washington Wizards side, we got Johnny Davis, Ryan Rollins, Landry Shamet, and DeLon Wright all out once again. Jordan Poole is listed as questionable tonight due to his ankle injury if he's unable to go. It's going to be a bump up in minutes for guys like Corey Kispert, Jared Butler, and probably Bilal Coulibaly once again tonight. And then Eugene Umaruri for them is listed as questionable. He's dealing with a concussion. We'll see whether or not he's good to go tonight, but not a major part of their rotation either way. Then we move over to the Pelicans. Larry Nance and Matt Ryan both out once again. Zion Williamson listed as questionable. Did miss their most recent game due to an ankle injury. If he's unable to go, everybody's going to look a little bit better. And then on the Hornets side, they were without LaMelo Ball, Cody Martin, Frank Ntilikina. Once again, Mark Williams listed as doubtful, so pretty much assuming that we will see Nick Richards in that starting lineup once again. And then we have P.J. Washington listed as questionable due to a shoulder injury. We'll see whether or not he plays or not tonight. If he doesn't, probably just going to be big minutes for these starters overall. Maybe you get a little bit more of JT Thor tonight, but not the greatest guy for DFS purposes either way. Then we move down to the Orlando Magic. Kevon Harris and Wendell Carter both listed out tonight. And then Markelle Fultz listed as questionable. He's been out for quite a while. Probably not anybody we want to play for DFS purposes, but if he's back, could mean less minutes for guys like Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, and Cole Anthony just in general. And then the Boston Celtics are the one lone team on the back-to-back. Luke Cornett did end up being a late scratch last night, and then we'll see if Al Horford plays on the back-to-back. If there's any other Boston Celtics news, it will be posted down in the comments throughout the day as well. Then we move over to the Lakers, who are without Hood Schifino and Gabe Vincent once again. Taurean Prince is listed as questionable. He's dealing with a knee injury now at this point in time. If he's unable to go, we'll see somebody else in that starting lineup. Remains to be seen who exactly that will be, whether it's Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, or someone else. And then LeBron James listed as questionable. He did sit out the second half of that back-to-back, but he should be good to go tonight. Anthony Davis still remains questionable with that hip injury, but should be good to go as well. And then Jared Vanderbilt listed as probable to play for tonight's slate overall. On the opposite side, the Spurs look all the way healthy at this point in time. Then we move down to the Atlanta Hawks, who are without Buffkin, Griffin, Gaye, and Johnson all once again. So pretty much what we saw in their most recent game. And then we have DeAndre Hunter listed as questionable due to a knee injury, and he has missed the two most recent games for them. So if he's out once again, we probably see Wesley Matthews in that starting lineup once again, and Bogdan Bogdanovic getting a pretty big bump up in minutes and playing time and production overall once again. And then for the Toronto Raptors, just Christian Koloko out once again. And then we move over to the Houston Rockets. Victor Oladipo is out once again tonight. Ahmed Thompson listed as questionable due to illness. He did miss their most recent game. On the opposite side, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are without Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, John Morant, and Marcus Smart all once again. And then Desmond Bane listed as questionable. He's still battling an illness. Did miss their most recent game with that, so we'll just keep an eye on him throughout the day. And then for the New York Knicks, they're without Mitchell Robinson. He's going to be out for quite some time. And then for the Phoenix Suns, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, both out once again. And then we got Eric Gordon and Grayson Allen, both listed as questionable to play tonight. Eric Gordon did miss their most recent game, and Grayson Allen's been out for a couple games now at this point in time. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on all the injuries in play for tonight's 8-game main slate overall. As always, I will be listing all the injury updates throughout the day down in the comments, as well as the starting lineups throughout the night. So definitely be sure you're checking up down there as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about my core picks over there. So we are going to start off first with the point guard position. Dennis Schroeder of the Toronto Raptors going against the Atlanta Hawks tonight is a very favorable matchup. Point guards have done pretty well versus the Hawks so far this season, and it's a pace-up spot just in general. $6,300, looking for 31, 32 out of him. He's averaging 32 so far in the season. Currently, I'm projected for 33, 34 points tonight, so definitely has some pretty strong upside. Had a really strong game versus them in their most recent game as well. Then at shooting guard, we're going to go with Malachi Brandon here of the San Antonio Spurs, $4,400, looking for 22 points out of him. So he's just kind of a pay down option here. If you look at the rest of my core, I kind of needed somewhere to pay down, especially playing old Joel Embiid at center today, who I think is very warranted on the DraftKings side. But Malachi Brandon, $4,400 in that starting lineup for the Spurs. He's been playing decent sized minutes as of late. You know, if he's going out there, if his shot's going down, he's going to look pretty good overall. I think more times than not, he's probably going to get us right around that 22 points that we're looking for out of him to give us a 5X. But you know, there is some downside, but the upside is still pretty great at that. And he did pretty well, I believe, versus the Lakers last time when they did play a couple days ago as well. Then we move down to the small forward position. I got Trey Murphy here, $5,500, going against the Charlotte Hornets today. Pace up spot just in general. Looking for 27, 28 points out of him, essentially, who's averaging so far in the season. If Zion Williamson is out once again today, he will become a cash game play just in general. But if Zion plays, you know, maybe this ultimately ends up being someone else, but still wouldn't mind Trey Murphy in that case as well. And then with that being said, you know, with Trey Murphy, I got him projected right around 30 fantasy points tonight. Probably more if Zion ultimately ends up missing once again. Then at power forward, we're going to Pascal Siakam, $8,300, looking for 41, 42 fantasy points out. I'm averaging just under 39 on the season. Like I mentioned the other day, been an up and down season for him so far, but going against the Atlanta Hawks tonight, he's a very, very favorable matchup, and he just did dominate them the last time out, so would not be surprised if that happens once again tonight. Currently I'm projected for about 44 fantasy points, but definitely has a ton of upside for more at the same time. And then last but not least, we have my preferred pay-up option for the day, $11,800, and it is Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers going against the Detroit Pistons tonight. Looks like a really favorable matchup. Need at least 59 out of him, but I currently have him projected for 62. Definitely has a ton of upside tonight, especially with how banged up in the front court the Detroit Pistons are. But with that being said, if you go to these 5 players that I do have listed here, you have $13,700 remaining, just under $4,600 per player. Typically I like to give you guys more money than this to spend. Not a lot of great value plays to start off the day, but hopefully some other ones do open up as the day moves along. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So once again, we're going to start off at the point guard position with Dennis Schroeder. He's $6,600 on FanDuel, so a little bit more expensive here as compared to DraftKings. Looking for about 33 fantasy points out of him at the minimum. Great matchup versus Atlanta once again tonight. He did do very well versus them. Currently, I'm projected for 33, 34 fantasy points. Maybe this is a pick that changes throughout the day, but I still do like the matchup just in general. Then we're going to move down to the shooting guard with Dante DiVincenzo, $4,600. Kind of our pay down option on the FanDuel side today. So looking for 23 points out of him. He's been really up and down as of late, but he's been in that starting lineup. Last game that he did have was pretty strong. The downside's there, but the upside's definitely there at the same time as well, especially if he closes the game, then he's going to look really good overall. So with that being said, right now, currently I'm projected for about 24, 25. Obviously does have that upside for more, has some downside for less at the very same time. Then in small forward, we're going to go with Keldon Johnson, $7,000. Looking for 35 fantasy points out of him. He's averaging about 33.5 so far in the season. He's had some pretty strong performances, especially starting kind of at that 4 spot now with Zach Collins out of that starting lineup. As long as that kind of seems what it's being as of late. There's a couple extra rebounds to go around for him. Although Victor Wembanyama's been grabbing a ton of them as of late. But like the upside that you can get out of Keldon Johnson on any given game, had a pretty strong performance versus the Lakers in their most recent game as well, which is the exact same matchup today. Currently, I'm projected for 37 fantasy points, but definitely does have a ton of upside for more as well. Then we're going to move down to power forward once again with Pascal Siakam, $8,300, looking for 41, 42 out of him. Averaging about 37.5 so far in the season. It's the same great matchup versus Atlanta that he did have the other day ago where he really paid off for us. So I do assume that's going to be the case once again. Currently, I'm projected for about 43, 44 tonight. Definitely does have a ton of upside for more at the same time. And then last but not least, at the center position, if you really want to pay up for Joel Embiid here, you can, but it's $12,600, which a lot more on the FanDuel side, especially when you factor in the scoring between the two sites. So technically, I decided to go with the pay down option today in Nick Richards, $5,400. No Mark Williams once again. If PJ Washington's out, Nick Richards is going to be out there getting as many minutes as he can handle as long as he's not getting into foul trouble against Jonas Valanciunas, but they really don't have much behind him now at this point in time. So definitely like the upside he could present today. Hasn't been too great this season, but $5,400, you're looking for 27 points out of him. I think he can get you 28 pretty easily, and then you can pay up at some other spots. If you want to play with a different center here today, you can. You can look at Jakob Poeltl, you can look at Clint Capella as kind of options in that mid 6K range. This pick's probably ultimately going to be Jonas Valanciunas, especially if Zion Williamson does ultimately end up missing today. Can't really plan on that to start off the day, but it's definitely something that could open up as the day moves along. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed, you have $28,100 remaining, just over $7,000 remaining per player. So a lot of different ways that we could build out this lineup, whether you want to pay up for a couple of guys, pay down at a couple other spots, or go with a little bit more balanced approach. Definitely a lot of ways to approach it on today's 8-game main slate overall. Obviously, if we do get some values opening up throughout the day, that will change the nature of this slate overall. But as of right now, the values aren't too great, so maybe looking a little bit more like a balanced build type of day. Although on DraftKings, I really wanted to get to Joel Embiid just in general. So once again, just going to be a very interesting slate overall. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for today, December 15th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more DraftKings or FanDuel specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing all the injury reports down in the comments throughout the day, as well as the starting lineups throughout the night. And then about 15 to 20 minutes prior to lock, I will have my updated core there. Lately been doing it a little bit earlier, but it will be left as a pinned comment. If there's any changes after that point in time, we'll leave them as a reply to the pinned comment as well. So definitely be sure you're looking out for all that information as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS Monday through Friday in terms of the core pick videos, and then on Saturday I have been doing my NFL DFS player pool video. Typically that comes out late morning, early afternoon, so definitely be on the lookout for that tomorrow, as well as my NFL DFS cheat sheets for both FanDuel and DraftKings over on the Sports Affiliation website. If you're into NFL DFS at all, definitely would recommend checking those ones out. If you're interested in a bigger player pool for NBA DFS or for NFL DFS, be sure to check out my Patreon as well at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any one of those three sites, and you make an initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's up to $100. They'll 100% match that. So if you put $10 in, you'll get $10 in your first match initial deposit. If it's $100, you'll get $100 in first match deposit. And then for BetUS, it's just 125% of your initial deposit. So you put $10 in, you'll get $12.50. And if you put $100 in, you get $125, up to $2,500. That is good for. It's definitely a great way to get into some sports betting, some prop betting just in general. If you have any questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.